we got our coaches here showing us good and bad running form. We've got Coach Matt here who's going to be showing us how to overstride and what our cadence will be looking like. I got Katie here with her gorgeous running form with a runner here who's going to be showing us that proper form as we're going through. We've got Jordan over here, Coach Jordan, who is going to be showing us upper body, what to do and not to do with that upper body form. And then I got Coach Katie over here, who's going to be showing us that different foot strike between heel strike and mid-foot strike. So here to all of our Orange Theory coaches, going to be showing you how to improve your running form. All right, I got Coach Matt here again to show us what it looks like if you're running above your ability. So he's going to show us what doing a base at 6 would look like. And then if I have him go to a push, he goes to 7. So his fitness level is between a 6 and a 7 for bases and pushes. Now, if we go all out and I say, hey, Matt, it's time to go all out, and he goes way above his fitness level, hits that 12, look what happens to his form. We start overstriding, we lose that good form, you're putting yourself at very, very high risk of injury, and that's where we see a lot of issues on the tread. So we want to make sure you are staying your all outs within your ability to keep your form where it needs to be. All right, so I have Coach Katie here showing us what a good running form looks like. So top to bottom, her chin is up, her shoulder blades are down in her back pocket, her arms are relaxed, elbows about a 90-degree angle. Her wrists are relaxed, hands right about her hips. If you look at her cadence, she should be right around 180 steps per minute, which is what we're looking for that proper cadence. If you look at her foot strike, her feet are hitting right underneath her hips. She's right in her midfoot, not on her heels, not on her toes. So this is what we are looking for when we say looking for proper running form. This is what it looks like from head to toe. So she's gonna bring her incline up to 8% right here. And as the incline comes up, we wanna see how her form changes. So her cadence will remain about the same, thinking about picking up her feet as that incline comes up to maintain that same cadence. She'll drive a little bit more forward with her knees to keep up with that increasing incline. Her elbows will come back, keeping that chest up, not looking down at her feet, her knowing her feet are still there, keeping that chest up. Her lean forward into that hill is coming from the ankles and not from her hips. What you want to think about an incline is to not lean away from it. Don't fight the incline, lean into it, embrace it, and that will help you become a better runner. All right, I got Coach Jordan here. We're going to talk about upper body when you're running. So she's going to come to base pace. So a lot of times you're on the treadmill, especially after you've been on the weight floor, what I see in that upper body is a lot of tension, and that is going to change your running form and put you at a high risk of injury. So what I see a lot of times is your shoulders are up, your elbows are really tight, you have got those T-Rex arms there, your chin is forward, you're cutting off oxygen supply. This is making that running much more difficult. So what you think about when you're up there with your upper body is relaxing those shoulders, to bring those shoulders up, back, and down into those back pockets. Shake out those arms. You want those elbows nice and loose, about a soft 90-degree bend. Hands by the hips, relaxing those hands. Your chin is up, your chest is out, and you're getting a really good deep breath as you're running. I got Coach Katie here. We're going to talk about your foot strike. So I'm going to have her come up to her base pace. So a lot of times what we see, we talk about our heel strike or toe strike. I'm gonna have her first go to a heel strike. This is what we see a lot. So what you see happening is her heel is hitting first, which means her foot is going out a little bit in front of her hips, putting a lot of pressure on the back of her legs, on her hamstrings, also feeling it a lot on the shins. Another issue we see is a toe hit, so you're running on your toes, putting again a lot of pressure on the bottom part of your leg and putting you in an inefficient running stride. So what we want to see is a midfoot strike. So she's going to adjust back to that. That's when you're hitting right in the center of your foot, thinking about hitting on the arch when you're running. This puts her feet right underneath her hips, making her form much more efficient and reducing her risk of injury. Power walking. So she's showing us how to properly power walk. She's got that slight bend in her arms, that 90 degrees. Her elbows are coming back. She's leaning into that incline, and she's adjusting her paces and incline as they adjust throughout the workout. A couple of things that we don't want to see when we're power walking. We want to make sure we have that arm swing. Sometimes people taking that away, arms out by your side. That's taking away the power part of the power walking. Another issue that we see is leaning from the hips and not from the ankles. So that's putting your body forward, putting you at very high risk of injury, especially in that low back. Another thing that we see a lot of times power walking is you leaning back, so holding on and leaning back. Again, this puts a lot of pressure. This is not a natural form. So a lot of times when we tell you to let go, we want to see you let go of that, maybe slow down that pace a little bit and get into that proper form with those elbows driving back with your head up and smiling because you're having so much fun here at Orange Theory.
What is your long-term goal? Are you looking to become a jogger and a runner all the time? If you're looking to build endurance, then that's where we're going to start. If what you're looking for is to just get back a little bit of a taste of that jogging and the running that you might have had in years past, then maybe you might start looking at your push and your all outs, right? So again, it's super important to think about what your long-term goal is in becoming a jogger and a runner. The best place to start is to go ahead and book a consult with a coach. The coach that you see most frequently or the head coach in your studio can sit down with you, talk about what your goals are and your best plan of attack to make that happen. When someone asks me this question, my favorite thing to tell them, try harder. You wanted the secret sauce to getting those pushes and those all outs. I'm afraid the secret sauce sometimes is just being willing to be a little bit more uncomfortable. You hear a coach tell you in class all the time that you are capable of more than you know. Sometimes what we got to do is take that leap and try. So if you are trying harder and you're still looking to increase your push and your all outs, then it's time to really, really focus on our form, because that quick cadence, that rapid turnover, that's where we're going to eventually find speed. And that is frustrating to some of our joggers and runners, because sometimes we have to slow down to improve our form. But that strong form, it's gonna get us faster in the end. Now, the most important thing to think about as your pushes and your all outs and how to make them bigger, better, faster, stronger is what's your base pace. We give you parameters in class that push should be 1 to 2 miles per hour over your base, or that your all out is 2 miles an hour or more than your base pace for a reason. If your base pace is not coming up, then your pushes and your all outs really shouldn't be either. We want to try and keep these parameters realistic because they're also going to keep us injury free. If you cannot hold your base pace at X plus 4 more miles an hour, even for 30 seconds, is probably not a good idea. So let's focus on building that endurance, bringing it back again to our base pace, and those pushes and those all outs are gonna get faster all on their own.
How do I get my mile time faster?
So both of those benchmarks, even though they're gonna finish out leaving you totally out of gas and maybe with a bunch of splats, are endurance efforts. We're looking to be pretty uncomfortable for a longer period of time. So in order to improve on those benchmarks, we're gonna need to start building our endurance, and that comes back to our base pace. So if your focus in class is always looking to creep that push up, increase your all out effort, it's time to start dialing back your push and your all out and focus on improving your base. Those small incremental changes are gonna improve your endurance, and in the end, it's gonna leave you feeling a little bit stronger so you can kick it at the end of that mile or at the end of that 12-minute benchmark run. So taking your base pace up, 0.1 to 0.2, just slowly building your base, that's where we're gonna see our improvements in our endurance, and those benchmark times are gonna start to come down.
Is power walking just as effective as jogging or running?
Well, that's a good question. What are you doing while you're on your treadmill? You're increasing your heart rate, right? Most of us are seeing most of our splats while we are on the treadmill. If your heart rate is coming up while you're power walking, then yes, power walking is doing the same thing as jogging and running. As long as we're seeing that elevated heart rate, we're putting our body up above that anaerobic threshold. That's exactly what we're doing while we're on the treads. If your heart rate is up in the orange zone, you're getting it done.
So Kelly, how do I know when to increase my base pace?
When you think about going from power walking to jogging or running, the first thing you have to remember is that jogging and running is a movement, not a speed. So when the coach says in the beginning of a working interval that our joggers will be at 4.5 to 5.5 miles an hour, does that mean that you can't jog at 4 miles an hour? Absolutely not, because that jogging is a movement, right? So as you start to think about transitioning from power walking into jogging and running, first we need to nail down that movement and not get so hung up on the speed. For example, if I'm here and I am walking at 3 miles an hour, here's my walking movement, right? There's absolutely no reason why I can't jog at that same 3 miles an hour by changing the way I'm moving my body. I just turn that same speed into a jog, right? As I get comfortable in that body position, then I can start cruising towards that 4.5 when it's time. But there's no race to get there. The other thing that you want to think about as we go from being a power walker to a jogger or a runner is what kind of day is it? You're not going to have the same response to an endurance day as you are to a strength day, as you are to a power day, right? So as you start out looking to turn into a jogger, maybe it's an endurance day. That's what you're focused on. You're looking to build endurance. That's where you're going to start. So when you come into class and it's an endurance day, your game plan that day is going to be to jog your base paces. We get asked a lot if your base pace should be consistent, day to day, always the same. The short answer is no. The long answer, the why, is because your base pace is a feeling. It's also a heart rate response. So when we're looking to keep your heart rate down, looking to feel challenged, but maintain a doable feeling, sometimes we might have to make some adjustments to that base pace.
Just because I can run a certain speed, I totally should.
On an endurance day, we're gonna see a more consistent heart rate response throughout a block. We'll also see a more gradual rise. So as that heart rate slowly comes up through that first push, it might hang tight right there when we go back to that base. But if you're back in control of your breathing, you're in an accurate base pace on an endurance day. Our base pace frequently has us back in the green zone. The green zone is literally about being in the presence of oxygen. So if you are breathing again, then you are in your base pace, right? So as we come out of a push, back into that base, spend about 30 seconds, and then ask yourself, do I feel like I'm in the presence of oxygen? Am I back in control of my breathing? Then your base pace is in a good spot on an endurance day.
I need to always maintain my exact base pace, no matter what the incline is on a strength day.
Your base pace on a strength day might be a little bit lower than it is on an endurance day. Specifically, if you are a runner and you favor endurance running, you might not do as much strength training as another athlete. That means those inclines are going to be a little bit tougher for you if you generally favor an outdoor run on a flat road. So let's think about the changes we'd make to our base pace to get a heart rate response, still be able to hold that pace at incline, and then come back down. So do you need to stay married to your base pace on a strength day? Absolutely not. Instead of holding on to that base, do or die, and then eventually finding yourself walking, go ahead and knock it down by 0.1 or 0.2. You might surprise yourself and be able to hold that incline and then finish out the rest of the block. Now, on a strength day, you might be able to hold your base pace for the first or the second push at incline, but as your body fatigues, remember that we are looking always to match the effort, not always the intensity. So we could pull back on that intensity, but the effort is going to still feel the same as time goes on throughout the block. So when we get towards the end of that block, your base pace might be a little bit lower, as those inclines are either being matched or increasing.
I'm a better, faster, stronger athlete if I get back to base pace instead of take that walking recovery.
Base pace on a power day, it might be invisible. There are power days where you don't see any base pace, right? Series of all outs, no base pace. But if there is base pace on your power day, that base is your warm up. It's your shakeout. You're getting ready, you're seeing how you feel, you're getting ready to go. So remember, you should really aim to be in your green zone during that base pace. If for whatever reason your heart rate is running hot, pull down on that base pace today, because you are looking to go all out when you take it all out to the finish line. Don't ever hesitate to pull back on a power day's base pace so that you can feel fresh and ready to tackle that all out. Additionally, you might see a lower heart rate during some of those base paces because of the volume of walking recovery that you see on a power day. So if that heart rate is running a little bit lower on a power day, don't stress it. It's probably because of that rapid heart rate coming down, sign of that strong heart, spending time under the orange lights. That's exactly what we want.
there's a lot of things it could be, so it really depends on what's going on. First thing I want you to think about is, are your shoes new? A lot of times we run in those same shoes for so long, and they actually do run out about 300 to 500 miles or 6 months. So if your shoes are older than 6 months old, or they're the wrong shoes for how you run, they may be causing your issues. So I would definitely suggest getting new shoes and getting a proper fit for good running shoes. Other things that could be causing those issues is running form. So things like running on the heels or on your toes, not running at that perfect midfoot. Things like slowing it down too much, too low of a steps per minute can also cause issues. Another thing that it could be with that running form is if you're standing or running too close to that console or too far to the back of that treadmill, not right in the center on that flex deck. That can also cause you those same problems and issues. Shin splints is something we very, very commonly see with new runners. So if that's happening, make sure you have a coach check out your form and make sure you're getting enough proper shoes. Also, it could be a more complicated issue. So if you're having these pains and they're not going away, I would highly suggest go seeing a doctor or specialist to make sure there's nothing else going on. A lot of times when you are having pain in your hamstring and in your glutes after a really aggressive effort, it's due to overstriding. And a lot of times that happens when you're running above your ability. So yes, we want you to put up awesome paces here. We want you to get faster and stronger at Orange Theory, but we want you to do it safely. So it depends on the template of the day, what those paces will look like. Power days will look different than strength days, which will look different than endurance days. So you want to listen to your coach and what they're asking for that workout. But you also want to keep those paces within reason. So if your base is a 6, you have no business doing all outs at 12. We need to get that base and push where it needs to be so we can get that all out where it needs to be. So our general guidelines is your push should be 1 to 2 miles an hour above your base pace, and your all out should be 1 to 2 miles an hour above your push pace. So trying to stay within those guidelines during your workout will help prevent those overstriding injuries and help keep you safe.
Base pace gives you